you've seen from HTTPS? It's growing more and more. What should SEOs keep in mind when migrating to HTTP? Well, let me first ask you your opinion of HTTPS to begin with.
I think it's a good thing. The web, I actually open my presentation with, if you were fortunate to live as long as I have, the very first experience you had with JavaScript after firing up your shiny brand new Microsoft Internet Explorer browser was to go into Options, Advanced Options, Security, and turn JavaScript off.
Because it was failing miserably?
Because it was the vehicle for so many viruses.
Right,
but it really wasn't the problem. The problem was Internet Explorer.
The problem has always been Internet
the vehicle
Explorer.
with which all that stuff was injected, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I kind of look at HTTPS in that same light, right? We're moving to a much more secure web that's needed to be there for a long time. Right. The real fight has been with internal IT, right? Because they want to be able to see traffic. And if you're in HTTPS, even on your own local wire, they can't see it.
Nope.
It was the giant discussion on HTTP2 when we were moving to that. Because there was a whole group that was like, no, we do not want HTTP2 unless it is entirely HTTPS. Mm-hmm. And the internal IT folk and that sort of stuff were like, no, we have to be able to see internal traffic. You can't do this. So I am a firm believer that a secure web is a better web. I think moving to HTTPS is absolutely the way to go. It's such little programmatic overhead and to make it happen. Right. It does incur cost with secure certificates, but as the web gets more and more of this, those prices should drop.
Yeah.
So I am actually for it. I think the second part, as far as like being a rank factor, I think Google's one of those ones. I think they've kind of gotten in the habit of they make the announcement, nothing happens. I mean, Mobilegeddon was kind of the same thing, right? Here's this big thing, and then they come out and say, well, all things being equal, this one factor could move you up a rank. I think what they do is they then give everybody like a year and a half, and then they're like, now we're going to start turning that dial up.
Right.
We've given everybody enough time. So I think in the beginning it was nothing, and I think over time it's going to become more and more of a rank factor, not for relevancy, but I think when you look at whether you should send somebody to a malware page and whatever that part of the algorithm is, I think that's going to be important there, but not necessarily for the other stuff that you normally see that are rank factors.
I'd agree with you. You see this pattern of the announcements, and then they follow up over a few years to actually grade that. I mean, page speed was the same thing, is that it was a non-issue or a non-factor, and then ultimately, I mean, they revealed it was always a factor. They just weren't putting that much weight on it. So I agree with you, and the story of 30% of the rankers in SERPs from a Moz study are displaying HTTPS. That's not coincidental. There's certainly some things that are afoot here. So your advice is pay attention to Google. Don't run flying off a cliff whenever they actually announce a new factor. But wait patiently, get your stuff in order, and continue down the trail that they've already set up for you. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think early adoption, I think, is always one of your biggest market advantages that you can have.
Sure.
Right? So try to get in there. But sometimes that early market adoption for HTTPS, it probably wasn't that big.
Yeah.